bushes.
Those two.
Well, I had to follow blood, you know, so.
She's between blood and deodorant.
So we got some issues.
We have a few announcements, right?
Yes, we do.
What do we have?
The first one, Finifrox have an announcement.
What?
Oh, okay.
Do you want me
June?
to?
Yeah, you get it.
Oh, you got. Go ahead. You got this.
You sure?
Yeah.
Do you know the date?
June 20th is a Friday, and they have invited everyone in the Real Life group to come over to their house on the lake and have a party, hang out, and then Saturday, whoever wants to stay can go out on the lake and
Go fishing,
Really? Yeah.
jet
put on
skiing,
some
do
Hawaiian
whatever you want.
tropics.
Really,
How far away?
Saturday's gonna be the. Saturday's gonna
It's
be
on
the
my
bigger
Youngstown.
day.
That's
So.
Lake Berlin.
Berlin, Lake
Is
Berlin.
that too far away?
You said.
Come that time, we're keeping ourselves close enough to the hospital.
Yeah,
That's only
better,
5
so
days
better.
before.
Where is
Yeah.
that lake?
Oh yeah.
Is it?
I leave for
Won't be
Philly
there.
this morning, but I think I
I'm
can.
Chance to
anticipating.
deliver.
Yeah.
Chance to
Anticipating
deliver.
she's going late.
Yeah. So
Cody,
Friday.
you go, you can deliver.
Friday night, and then whoever wants to stay, but then Saturday's like most of the day. Obviously, since a lot of people work.
So if you can only come
fine.
one, come Saturday.
Yeah, come
Yes,
Saturday.
come
if you're on,
Saturday if you can only come one. 'Cause probably won't take the boat out on
Just
Friday.
all day.
I'm just having a
Yeah.
party just because.
Just because, just
That's
bring
fine.
whatever food you
See,
want.
Good fishing?
Are you saying like a
Walleye.
slalom party or
I'm putting
what?
that in my phone.
Ooh, I got a new rod that's good for walleye.
Hardcore walleye fishing out there.
Can I bring my kayak?
You can
You
bring
have to have
whatever
a
you
fishing
want.
license.
So Saturday
Where
all
is
day.
that?
Optional Friday sleepover.
Lake Berlin.
But,
Berlin.
but
I need
for
to know where they're
sleepover,
at.
let you know in advance so that
Yes.
they have.
Please let us know.
There's only a certain number of.
It's about
bedrooms.
40 minutes
Yeah.
away from here.
Oh, it's not bad. Okay. I'm just trying to think logistics wise.
Yeah.
Maybe. I'm like, shoot, we're in.
We're
Yeah.
excited.
We'll give everybody details closer to, but wanted to get on your
The
calendar.
20th, you said?
21st.
21st.
It's Saturday the
Saturday.
21st is the
Okay.
big day.
The summer solstice.
What is it?
And
That's right.
yeah, baby.
They will have
Kicking
a
it
What
out
else do we
right.
have?
Oh, that is the summer solstice.
That's the only one that I knew of.
The summer
I smell
solstice?
something good right now.
Summer what?
What's this?
Solstice?
That's the only announcement.
Is that coffee?
What's the solstice?
Solstice.
Don't worry about it.
The summer solstice
That's
is the day
when-
of their party.
Okay.
That's when
It's the
summer
longest
starts.
day of the year, isn't it?
It's the
Yeah, longest
day.
daylight day of the year.
20th or the 21st?
The 21st. And then December 20?
It's right around that same time.
Winter
yeah.
solstice?
Yeah, the winter solstice. What day is it again? It's
I don't
usually the
know.
20th.
Do we have any other announcements?
I don't think so.
It's dark really early. It's horrible.
Alright.
I hate cold.
So, thanks for coming.
Welcome.
Hello.
Welcome. Basically, this is a nice sized group tonight. It's interesting. We've not had a group this small probably in a year and a half, at least. You think 13 people? But it's funny. What we were going to talk about tonight is actually our group. So we'll have intimate conversation about the group. It was interesting because we started thinking back, me and Hannah. It was 6 months ago when we've had our family meeting, if you guys remember, where everybody came and we talked about really what's the point of a real life group and how's a real life group supposed to operate and what have you enjoyed about the real life group and what's the ideal real life group member. And we had that whole conversation. At that point in time, we had grown from, what was it, like a 16 person real life group to like a 24, 25 person real life group. And we're like, wow, like we're growing a lot. Like we need to start preparing and having conversations about like the next phase of real life group leadership. And the next phase of like, ideally a real life group size would be 12 to 15 people. And so we've surpassed that at that point in time. So we're going to start talking about what the next phase is and a birth happening, which is a good thing. That just like Bath campus and the Medina campus or Bath campus and the Mount Shores Extension campus, you're creating more seats and more places for new people to come and connect and feel a one-on-one relationship with people inside of the group. So we had that conversation 6 months ago. And during that time period, obviously the Ruse, they started feeling like they wanted to lead. And this is the first week that we were supposed to have a brand new
This was going to be
launch.
your
supposed to
first
be our
night.
launch night.
The
Yeah.
launch night, the debut. And obviously that's not happening because we're excited for the Ruse who have a job and have a place that they're looking at, some apartments they'll be headed down in a month or so to check out places in Tennessee. But
But we're sad.
the needs still exist for a group. And so we wanted to go ahead and we wanted to have that conversation again 6 months later, kind of a check-in, and just talk through that, because since then we've grown from a 25-person real life group to a life group where we have about 32 people on our roster, and every week we've had between 25 and 35 people come between visitors over the 6-month period, aside from tonight. So just look around at how crowded the living room is. And so we wanted to have that conversation, just start talking through that again, because even though the Roos aren't going to be able to lead a real life group, the need does still exist. And part of the reason why that need does still exist is because you think about just the connectedness and the intimacy that you can have inside of a group of people when it is a smaller size. And I know that over the last 6 months, like I've had conversations, and Hannah's had conversations too with different people who said, like the real life group, it just has a different feel. I feel a little bit disconnected, or I feel like it's a lot easier to just come and like slide in and not really be a part of the conversation and don't really have the connectedness to the group. And a lot of that has happened because of the blessing of the growth inside of the group, and the fact that God has brought people to our group, and that we've been able to challenge and grow individually, and we've been able to grow closer to Christ. But because that's happened, it does, as you go from a group with a single circle to a group with a second circle like we've been doing, it's easy to just show up and kind of go through the motions and to feel like you're not really a part of anything. And so we wanted to spend time talking really about like the purpose of the real life group tonight, and then really what that next phase would be inside of our group, and kind of some plans for how we can go ahead and how we can take steps that direction. Is there anything else that you would add to that?
I think it's exciting and sad at the same time to kind of like go through some of these combos. But I think even tonight's a good example. Like, we didn't know that a lot of these people weren't coming, because when there's 35 people, it's a lot easier to not show up. Back in the day when we started and there was only 10 people, 12 people in our group, every time someone was going to miss, they were like, oh, we have to let Caleb and Hannah know because they'll miss us. And I bet a lot of the people who didn't show up tonight, which it's fine, life happens, didn't really think like, oh, the group's going to miss me tonight. Or I just feel like the purpose a lot of times for that smaller size is intentionality and conversation. And I went out to eat on Monday with Kara in our group. And I try when someone joins a life group, like, to go out to eat with them one-on-one, to spend time with them, to get to know them, the wife or woman, and like really like start to build that relationship. And I looked at our roster and I was like, I haven't done this with like the past like 7 girls who have joined because it's getting so big that it's like it's harder to make some of those intimate connections. So yeah, so it's a great conversation to have. Too.
And so we wanted to, with that thinking back on, okay, this was going to be the first week in May that we did have a group. We've been praying about it, the launch, and praying about which group people were going to be in. And it's not I liked Tyler more than I liked Caleb, or I like this person more than I like this.
Easy decision.
But it was weird because I felt called to go to his group too. So basically Tyler was going to birth a group after the first week because everybody would have been to his group.
Like, okay, someone go to Caleb's house. He's sad, a little lonely.
So, but we started really like thinking about it, and really, why would somebody go to one group versus the other group? And at the end of the day, it in no way at all is if somebody says, hey, I'm going to be part of this launch group, whoever the leader is or wherever that group is, I'm going to be part of that launch group. That in no way is better or more meaningful than the person that says, I'm going to stay a part of the original group, or at the Knits' Life group, let's just say. Because the new group would take on its own identity, and it would not be Knits 2.0, it would be whatever it is. And they would meet on their night, and they'd do their thing. And we thought through that, and it's like both people who prayerfully approached that decision are following God's will and actually playing a very instrumental role inside of the actual design of what a real life group would be. And so if it was somebody that stayed a part of the Knits real life group, that would be one of the core couples that if the group, let's say, did a 50-50 split, one of the core couples that would stay and start to make people feel welcome and start to make people feel connected. And when I look around this room, like, those are those people that when we've had visitors over the last 4 months, when people have come for the very first time, when you guys came for the very first time, you're the newest couple inside the living room. The group was like, oh hey, like talk to you, feel connected to you, start to find out, where are you from, like who do you know, like oh that's great, why'd you come here? Start asking questions, start to build a relationship, and it was not always me and Hannah. It wasn't the group stays in there and eats, and Caleb and Hannah do all the connecting. Like everybody in our group plays a very strategic and a very intentional, and very purposeful role inside of helping people to feel welcome, helping them feel connected to people, and ultimately helping them feel connected to Christ. So that's that one decision that people said they wanted to stay inside of the group. But for the people that say, I want to go ahead and wherever that new group does start, I want to be a part of that, they're playing the role of doing that similar role of helping people that would now be able to come to a Wednesday night group or a Tuesday night group or a different group that would meet even if it was on a Thursday night, to make new people at that group feel welcome. But also they would be creating spaces for new people to come into this group or people to come into that new group, because now there's a group size that's at a sustainable level that you could have 12 people and you could have 5 visitors and you're still able to talk to people, you're still able to have real life conversation. And when I think back on what that's meant to me, I think on just like what the body of Christ means. That at the end of the day, me and Hannah, like we've been blessed and we're able to have a house that has a lot of chairs that we can host people.
Tons of chairs.
That we can host people at our house, but like already in the last 10 minutes, I've probably done more talking and right now than typically on a real night of life group than what we would individually do, because our role in being part of the body was to provide a house. And through conversation, especially through a smaller group of conversation, most of the time, Corey's sharing what God's doing in his life, or Tyler's sharing what God's doing in his life, or Abby's opening up and sharing different things that are happening. And through that, we're all helping point ultimately to the story of the gospel and to a deeper relationship with Christ. And at the end of the day, I mean, that's the beauty, I think, of a real life group and of the purpose of what's going on inside of the group. Yeah. And so, if through the multiple groups and, a very healthy group will grow and a very healthy group will say, following that, I'm going to be a part of this body, whether it's here or whether it's there, to help ultimately somebody to feel connected to other people and ultimately feel connected to Christ. That can happen anywhere, whether it's in this group or it's in any other group. Would you add anything different to that? No? What do you guys think about that? Just thoughts, kind of interacting with it.
It just stinks because change is always hard, and it's hard to get to know people, and then, you won't see them as often or whatever. It already stinks that they're leaving, so.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I feel that way. Like, I kind of started with the group and then took a while off and then started coming back again. And I don't have as close of relationships with everybody that I think I would like to. And it's just hard because there's not enough time, I guess. So it's like one of the books that our CEO kind of gave me and Caleb is Necessary Endings. And it's not necessary endings. It's not that it's a bad thing. It's that it's essential to grow. And so I think for everyone to grow, he's right. It's we can still hang out like once a month or whatever, get the whole pack back together, but it's gonna be it's gonna stink for a little while.
It's kind of like the same thing I was thinking. I mean, it just means being more intentional with our time, like you said, getting together once a month, or Jeff's Bible study on Tuesday mornings. Like I know a lot of us have been going to that, and it stink on Thursday nights. But I still think that there'll be a lot of other opportunity throughout the month to get together or talk or whatever that is, and I know life's going to be changing for like Abby and I and Jennifer and Andrew, and that it's going to be a lot different anyway to begin with, and so.
In that book, and it's interesting, I like that you brought that up, because in that book of Necessary Endings, the author, Dr. Henry Cloud. He's a clinical psychologist and a business coach, and he talks through basically the scripture and the Bible that where Jesus saying in John 15, where it says, I'm the vine and you are the branches, and he who abides in me and I in him, he'll bear much fruit. And he goes on to talk about the gardener, God, he prunes those that he loves. And in that whole analogy of how could a gardener prune, or why would a gardener ultimately prune any piece of crop or a rose bush or a tree or anything that's inside their garden? Why would they do that? And you think of it, and really there's 3 reasons why a gardener would prune something. One would be to cut off the dead. And thankfully inside of our group, like we don't have dead. Like there's not literally dead, but spiritually dead. We don't have people that are just showing up and taking, like, every time that Hannah and I have described our group, we're like, we are a group of all leaders. Like everyone inside of our group, like I feel like has the potential to lead a group. And everyone in our side of our group is a minister. Whether it's one person that's just ministering, like by teaching a real life group, whether it's one person that's ministering by opening up the door and being a friendly face, it's one person that's ministering by bringing the snack, whatever it is, by planning a game night at someone's house, we're all ultimately ministering to other people and helping to share love. So I don't think that we have that. A gardener, he would prune to cut things that are growing to create more room for things that will grow. And I think that's one of the things that we are going through right now. That we cut back to create more room for new growth inside of the group. And the other reason is to cut those that are growing but are not growing to their potential. So that's a great like rose that's growing right there. But if I cut that back, more energy can go into the areas that really need that growth to push out a better rose or a better crop. And so from our group, I really think that a split of unnecessary endings of we're going to develop into something bigger and we're going to develop into something better. And it's not for my glory, it's not for the glory of anybody inside of the group, but at the end of the day, for us to grow spiritually, to prune and create room for new growth, or to prune and to create more energy to be poured into people that are coming that need that energy for them to grow, just like that rose that isn't able to grow. So we create room for it, and the energy is redirected to the people that need it. And I'm thankful inside of our group, I feel like we know the story of the gospel. We are connected to each other. We have a deep relationship with Christ. But to think through some of the people that have come for the first time that maybe you haven't been able to go out with, that I haven't been able to go out with because I haven't had time because there's too many other people and it's just there's too many different relationships. But that as a group, it's like, okay, cool, like it's more intentional that we're going to help people to grow in their relationship with Christ because of that pruning. So I like that you brought that up, and it's such an applicable situation or story to kind of what we're going through. And it's not a bad thing; it's a good thing. That's how you cultivate anything from something that's good to make it something that's great. Anything that you would add there?
Just kind of, I know we've talked about that a lot, but that was the story for Caleb and I as well. Like, at the Wallace group, we would just kind of show up and to kind of jump out of that, and not even necessarily, we did lead a group, but there was other people who left when other groups birthed, and they went with the leader, and it was like they kind of went from like, I feel like I'm putting like 60% effort into being a life group member, and then when all of a sudden there's only 8 people, it's like, oh, I kind of got to step up. And I think that's part of like the pruning process too, is it's like, the purpose of a life group is ultimately for us to go close to the Lord. And a lot of times when we're put in those uncomfortable situations, even this weekend when Jeff was saying that, when he was talking about James, and he was going through that verse, and he said the quickest way to spiritual maturity is through trials. And you don't think of like splitting a life group like this isn't exactly a trial, but if it's a place that you're comfortable and all of a sudden you're uncomfortable, like that in itself is a trial. And that brings spiritual growth for not only you, but for others in the group, because you're all challenged in it. So it's hard because I think most of us like to be comfortable, and we're all good friends and love each other so much. And even just last week at the baby shower, like I was just sitting there eating my little tea sandwiches and just kind of felt like crying as I was looking at these 20 women in my house, and I was like, I just love all of these women so much. And like, it's hard, you know, when they talk about, even with as a parent, like you have to show your child you love them through things that aren't always easy, like through discipline, and it's like, it doesn't feel good doing this, but I know this is best for you. And I feel like that's where Caleb and I's heart is at with our group. It's like, to be honest, like, we'd be fine just having 35 people show up, and like, it's easier for us that way, and it's more fun because it's more people we're connected with, and it's not like we're like, oh good, we can get, you know, Tyler and Megan out of our house. Like, it's with sadness that we think about having to split. But again, at the end of the day, that's not what it's about. It's not about having best friends. It's about growing close to the Lord and having more people who can come and grow as well. So, but it's definitely not my first choice, honestly. I'd rather
So-
keep you all.
How would you even go about this? So would it be like logistically, like
We're gonna draw straws.
geographic? Seriously, it's not gonna be.
Yeah, part of it that we've thought about. So, you know, initially, never would I want to guilt anybody into it, or somebody be like, well, no one's gonna do it, I guess I gotta do it. Like, that's I would hate that. That's not the way that God works and moves inside of people's lives, and that's not the way that you should ever do anything out of faith. Like, that's just not the way. And Jeff says that same thing when he's talking about from the Bath campus to the Montrose Extension campus, that like, pray about it, God will lay it on your heart, and that'll happen, you know, and literally you have to commit to praying about it, and it happens. But from our standpoint, me and Hannah, to say, how can we help that to happen? And part of the way that we decided to help that to happen is during this month of like May, that we continue to just keep on doing what we're doing and interact with it, have conversations about it, like reach out to me and Hannah if you're feeling one way or another, you're thinking, hey, like, I'm interested, I don't know what that means. But during the month of May, basically, we keep on doing what we're doing. I don't even have there's not even a leader that we've identified in the first place. Like, to know, like, hey, this person is going to open up their house, and this person is going to, you know, we don't even have that. So from our standpoint, we said, let's go ahead and from June to July, have 2 life groups meet at our house. Have one life group up here, and then one life group in the basement. And during that June to July time period, Tyler and Megan would be like the leader. Ultimately, everybody inside of the one group would know that they're moving, and they're going to be moving, and so it would be about a 3 or 4 week time period for him to lead, but for the person or the couple or whoever it was that decided to be that said they felt like they wanted to lead, for them to go ahead and to partner with Tyler and Megan, and for them to really act as that coach of that second group, if that makes sense. And during that time period, Tyler would start to transition that leadership responsibility to them. But the group that would lead, it wouldn't be, hey, you know, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. You know, it would, during the month of May, it would really be, hey, like Caleb and Hannah, and we would want you guys to tell us, like, I think we want to be a part of the new group, and we don't know who the leader is, and we don't know where it's going to be, but assuming we don't need to drive an hour, and thankfully nobody lives an hour away, like, we want to be a part of it. We want to do that thing. And we don't know what that looks like, but count us in. That would be the way. And, you know, as we're talking through that, interacting with it, and it's not like you make the commitments like, hey, you left us, like, I'm celebrating that. Like, the group celebrates that. But once we get to June, we'd pretty much commit. We'd all come here 7:15, whatever it is. We split. We plan to end at 8:45, 9 o'clock. Come back together, and that's kind of how it's happening. But I would want and imagine that there would be consistency amongst the groups, and it's not, hey, I'm downstairs this week, that it would start to create that, so that up here the group that would meet would be connected, and like some of the best conversations that I feel like we've had as a group where I've grown the most is where I'm able to not just go through a list of questions that me and Hannah have typed up for ourselves to ask the group, but where, like, through those questions, like, life change starts to happen. It's like, hey, like, me and Hannah are really wrestling with this, and, like, I don't know, this is what's going on. And, like, we need prayer, and we need you guys, like, what are your thoughts about this? and where other people have done the same thing back, and like as a group, like we're able to stop working our way through a list of questions, and we're able to like, all right, let's talk about this, and you're able to help people live out and experience life change that can only happen through the body of Christ. And so May would be us praying about it and people starting to interact with that individually and as couples and reaching out to me and Hannah talking about it. June to July would be Tyler and Megan leading that group, and there'd be a core group of 10 people, 15 people that would meet down in our basement or up here. I'd be fine taking the basement and letting the newbie group taking this up here. And
I
then
didn't agree to that.
she might join Tyler's group. So, and then from July basically, when you're ready to take off, that new life group would officially launch. And so, it's exciting. It's really exciting, and it's not something to be sad about. It will be different, but what's awesome about it is the growth that will happen individually and the growth that creates the opportunity for other people to grow too is very, very exciting. And I know that when Tyler and Megan were talking about themselves leading, I was really sad to lose the weekly interaction I was going to have with Tyler, but I was really excited for the depth of relationship that would come because of a shared ministry that we would have together. And that understanding that can come. And when I look at that, the depth of our relationship would be deeper, even though the surface level of that relationship would change. And I think that same thing would happen because I experienced that when we left our original real life group and started this one. I still see, Gary and Audrey, and I still see, Stasha and Lisa, and I still see all of our Jared and Aaron, all of our other friends. And it's a different relationship, but they get it, that we left to create spaces so they could be ministers, and we left so that we could go to a group that needed more ministers and be able to minister to other people. And a year and a half ago, I didn't know anybody in here besides Chris and Kristen. I knew of you, but I didn't know you.
The deodorant kid.
Yeah, but I mean, we didn't know, and even when you doubled the size right here and you have our normal 30-something group size, we didn't know anybody in here, and we're all. I feel what's that?
You knew Brandon.
I knew, but he's not here, so.
You said even if everyone was.
Even if you double, but I knew of Brandon, but I didn't really know Brandon. I knew of him. I knew who he was, and you knew him personally though, because you were in the same class, but. Is one of those things that's a lot happened in a really short period of time because of the interconnectedness and the personal relationships that happen inside of community group, where I feel like it's like an acceleration of friendship and acceleration of spiritual growth because you're talking about real things and it's not chit-chatting and it's not just going through the motions. It's really talking about real life and real struggles and real joys that, victories that we've overcome, which is awesome. So does that help a little bit? Kind of what does that mean? So I would really, me and Hannah are both praying about this, and I would really challenge everybody else to pray individually, pray as couples, interact with me and Hannah, let us pray through things that you want us to pray for. But I mean, we're really praying for, number one specifically, we're praying for a leader, an individual, a couple, for an individual inside of our group to feel the calling to lead and open up their home and to go through that. We're also praying for the people that would feel the calling to be a part of that launch group, whatever that group is. And so I'd encourage you guys to pray for that either. And I'm trying not to go with a request of, God, help this person to make that decision. And God, I'm asking God to move. Because this is his problem. It's not my problem. I didn't recruit for the group. You guys all just came, and it's been fun, and it's going to continue to be fun. But it's one of those things. It's all right, we're ready for that next step, and it's going to be cool. So, what else are you guys thinking?
This may be a complete logistics question, but I know there's a class for whoever takes over the group. Is that something that the couple does together if it's a couple, or is it just the guy who takes the class? How does that look? And then I'm assuming, we're so new to Grace still, but like I'm assuming that you have to be a member of the church to lead a life group. You don't. Okay.
You don't need to be a
Okay.
member. There is a class, and it's a class that if it's a single person, they go through. If it's a couple, both of them will go through because it is a joint ministry.
Right.
And it's something like I know Tyler and Cody went through it recently. I know that you and Phil had gone through it probably recently, but within the last year, definitely. So it's one of those things. It's they happen on a regular basis, and that's kind of logistically how it works. You don't need to be a member.
Is it like just a one time or a weekend, or is it like a 10-week thing? Like, what
It's
does
a-
the class look like?
You guys tell
I'm
me.
just curious.
It's a whole weekend essentially. So it's Saturday and Sunday, and each session is it 4.5 hours?
It was like 1 to 5:30 or something.
Yeah, it's pretty long, but even if you're not sure, you're just on the fence. I mean, it's just so refreshing too to hear like Grace's vision for life groups.
Yeah.
Like I would really encourage anyone who even has like a tinge of interest in it to just take it, because it's really good.
It helps change your perspective too, and I think as we talk about transitioning and changing the way the group looks, it's good to again get the vision for what Grace has for that, but then also understanding, okay, so maybe you go through and you say, okay, you don't feel the call to lead, but how then can I fit one of the other roles within the group, kind of like we're talking about, to facilitate growth of others, or to take pressure off the leaders, or to help minister within the group. Aside from, just someone asking me to kind of help out, it helps to kind of label and give you a better understanding of dynamics that are at play and how they work. So, but it moves pretty well even those 2 days. I wasn't sitting there thinking, oh my gosh.
Yeah, I wasn't watching the clock. I mean, it's very good. It's interesting and it's interactive and.
When
She's here.
Caleb and I went through it, I don't know how it happened, but for some reason we were the only couple who signed up for the training that weekend. So if you think your weekend was long, our weekend was just Caleb and I sitting down with Ryan Roadman
No way.
for 2 days.
Well, 2 are the only 2?
Yeah.
Oh man,
So
that was.
it was
I
like
love
an
Ryan.
intense. It was pretty serious. Like you could not pay attention. Like, he couldn't ask a
Grown-ups up
question
here.
and you not think about it because he'd be like, Caleb, how would you handle that in your group? And we're like, so
He's the pastor of adult ministries.
yeah, he preached there once in a while.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was what that one. It's a good training though. We just had the intense version.
He did the jealousy series.
Yeah. He just spoke like.
Yeah, okay. No.
So we're talking about group and group dynamics and change ahead and all that stuff.
Caleb's trying to kick me out.
We're not trying to kick anybody out. So, except Chris.
I think it is like I really like the point that you made about like it just means having to be more intentional. Like I think that that's really key, and I like regardless of whatever change or transition or groups. I hate to say splitting, but birthing. That's a better word. Yeah, groups birthing. It does mean that you have to be intentional. Like we, just came to Grace. We've been coming since January, pretty much. And really found a home at Grace and really found a home here at the life group and love the relationships that we're developing, but we still have friends at our church that we left, and it does mean that we have to be intentional about it. I actually met with one of the guys, a friend of ours from our church before last week, and it was the second time I've been to his house, and we sat and talked for an hour because it was like, hey, how are you? The intentionality of carrying that relationship on and being, intentional about it. I share with him, we don't want to sever any ties. Our friends are our friends. We want to keep that. We just have to be more intentional about it. And I think that it's so true, in this, situation in the group, having to, really be proactive about that. And I like the idea of, still continuing to have, a Saturday cookout or, whatever, just to still have those relationships. And because everybody means so much.
I think it's good to get a dose of ownership too. Conversations like this and a birthing process of the group definitely brings that to the forefront. I think Grace does a great job of really not being shy about taking ownership and, trying to shift that mentality from a consumer to someone who's really a vital part of what's going on. And I know for us, when we first started, I felt like very much a consumer. I wanted to get involved, but then things started to shift a little bit, and you realize, like, okay, like, I'm coming. I need to make sure I'm prepared. I need to make sure that I've thought about this stuff throughout the week. I need to make sure that I've, prayed about these situations and, reached out to people within the group and supported them and what they're going through and all that. And so again, these conversations are fun, but it does kind of shift our focus back to where it needs to be and the whole purpose of group. And it's easy to lose when you have 30, 35 people coming in every week.
Part of me thinks too, like when you are forced to be, like forced to separate or forced to birth, and you have to then be intentional about those relationships where you don't have the convenience of seeing someone on a weekly basis, like that forces that relationship to become deeper, like, I don't know, I guess if that makes sense, but like you have no choice other than to, if you, care enough to continue the relationship, you have no choice but to make it a deeper, more intentional one than what you would have had anyway in staying in a large group where, you weren't able to talk to everybody. It's like, hey, I wasn't able to talk to you on Thursday night, so hey, I'm going to give you a call instead and check in on how your week's going, like, it just means that much more, I think.
I think, like everyone was saying, like, I think it's, like, when I first came here, like, overwhelmed because of how many people, because I've been part of groups and before, but, like, it seems like a smaller group, you become more, the relationships grow deeper because, like you said, you can't hide, and then you have more time with less people, so it's just going to happen. You get to know people at a deeper level. So I think it's always a good thing. But again, I can say that, but I haven't built, relationships with everyone like you guys have, so that's really tough, I think.
I think one of the things that's really important for this is we don't want anyone to walk away from this neutral. Like, there's no way to just ignore this. It's either A, the Lord is calling me to stay in the Knits Life group. B, the Lord is calling me to go to the new group. Or C, the Lord is calling me to lead the new group. So I think the worst thing that we could do is just say, oh, I think I'm just supposed to stay here. Or I'm probably just supposed to go to the new group. Like, I want to give up my seat. Like, I think the more that you read Scripture, the more that you really get to know the Lord, He's a very intentional God. And, like, showing up to a life group may seem like, oh, I just picked this one because it's close to me and because I liked the name Caleb. Like, they looked good on the card. Like, it may seem that unintentional, but Caleb and I are firm believers that the Lord has called each of you to a very specific purpose within a life group. Which for some of you that may be new territory. And I guess I would just throw out that question. What do you guys think that would look like? What does it look like to really intentionally pray about something like this and, like, to know what the Lord wants you to do? Does anyone have any thoughts on that? Because we're saying, like, pray about it, but, like, what does that actually mean?
It's a good question.
You need to get an obvious answer.
No
Feel like
There's no hard feelings because it's an obvious answer if you intentionally pray about it.
Yeah. For me, listening to everything is just putting everything into perspective and just like looking at the bigger picture, not just everything individually. And with learning, I've been going through a lot of leadership books and a lot of leadership like stuff with Chick-fil-A. Like, that's my goal. I'm a leader, So it's very, I keep reverting back, like back and forth between church and Chick-fil-A, things that I'm learning and stuff. And it's all perspective to me. It's all like being intentional, being consistent, being, fostering dreams with everybody in the group, no matter if you're not with them anymore. And I don't know, it's just praying about it. It's like okay, what is the Lord gonna actually like? Is it gonna land in my lap, or is it just gonna be like an open door? Is it gonna be an open window, where I'm just gonna see it? You know, it's like with those, like you pray for open door moments. Like, is it gonna be in like that? Lord, am I gonna pray for my open door moment? Like, what am I gonna do? I think He'll just, I don't know, bring it to life whenever.
I think a lot of times when you pray intentionally about something, like really truly without a bias, but like really truly just praying like, okay, God, wherever you want me to be, whether it's a job or like a life group or like whatever the situation is, like I think that, you know, when you're weighing those sorts of things and giving it up to God, like He, whatever His answer is, becomes your desire. Mm-hmm. Like, okay, I desire this thing. Or, you know, like I just had the situation at work where I had to hire somebody new who's going to be my partner. Like had 25 applicants and interviewed 15 because I wanted all my options and you know all these things, and I just narrowed it down to 3, and I was like, okay, God, really like show me who you want to be in this situation, like who, you know, in their life this is the right thing for them, you know, like who could I be a minister to, like who could I love on, and like whatever. And what was my first choice going in on paper ended up not being my first choice at all. And someone who I thought I wasn't even going to consider because they lived out of town ended up being the person I was like, okay, this is who it's supposed to be. Like I need to get this person here. Like I need to do this, you know. And God worked it all out. Like got a house, like they're moving, like all this stuff. And it's just like that's the person's like I called and talked to her today, and I was like, hey partner, how are you? Like there's this passion to like come alongside this person, and I think like God does that in our lives when we are truly being intentional about stuff. Like it's not just oh, this is the right thing to do, or oh, this is where God's leading me. It's like He creates a passion in me to be a part of this other group, or He creates a passion in me to stay here and love on the people coming into the knits group, or like whatever it is. Like I just think that's His way of giving us the no-brainer. Like this is where I'm leading you, you know. So.
I think the interesting thing about change is, like Chris said, it never feels good. But, you know, like you, I really believe that God does put it on your heart as well. And I think, at least with me in the past, is what I get confused is with what I feel like God's asking me to do and what I want to do. And I feel like when those are fighting, then I must not be called to this. But in my own experience, and I don't think I've ever met a person who would say differently, that, you know, if you feel like God is asking you to do something, like in your heart you really feel that, even though it might make no sense, or, you know, it's like you're doing something so great now, why would you move me? When you go into it with a heart of like, I don't know why you're doing this, but you're doing it and I want to follow that, that God always blesses that. Every time. And you might not be happier, you know, a month from now, but He will grow you spiritually. And that's just my experience. And
well, I know it's a lot. So, but that's kind of what we wanted to talk about tonight with the group. We knew it was going to be a little shorter, but we kind of wanted to work through it, and we did want to take some time after this just to do a spiritual check. You know, it doesn't have to be about the real life group specifically, but you know, because we were going to have a little shorter group, like to open up our house and, you know, let everybody go upstairs or in another room or downstairs or outside if they want to, and just spend the next 20 minutes, you know, till, you know, 8:45. You know, 9 o'clock, just like praying and interacting with what God's doing inside of your life. You know, we've been talking at church about like what people were like before they met Christ and what they were like after they've met Christ, and I think that we've had, I know for me, having gone through life trials and seeing and experiencing Christ a lot these last few months, it's become different to me. But for me to spend out time and actually ask God, okay, well, what are you teaching me through this? Like, what's going on? Like, and to actually interact with them. So, I mean, we did write down some questions just to kind of help prompt some prayer. But I would encourage you just to, even you know, if it's couples, spend time together. If you want to hook up with somebody else and pray with them, that's definitely welcome too. But then just find a place that you're comfortable here.
Or by yourself.
Or by yourself. Praying. What questions did we write down, babe?
Just different things within grace. So like we wrote down about praying for the individuals you were praying for eye care on your bracelet. I feel like now that that's over, it's kind of easy to be like, all right, now we're moving on to before and after. So maybe spending some time with that. And then just praying for our church with the extension campus, praying for our leaders, our pastors. I know I'm not always as intentional about praying for our pastors and our elders and different life group leaders and things like that as I should be. And then just kind of for our group, where that's going to move. And then just kind of you individually and really seeking the Lord on this, on which of those three things is he calling you to?
Can I make a final comment?
No.
I just want to say too, I feel like a lot of times when stuff like this is talked about, it's like the people who feel like they're called to leave, it's like, a lot of times it's looked at as like, oh, they must really love the Lord, and the people who aren't, like, maybe they're just not willing to do it, but it very much, like, God very much could be calling you to stay exactly where you're at. So I just feel like whenever there's a legitimate need, a lot of times it sounds like
more spiritual.
Right, like you must love the Lord more if you're leaving, kind of thing. I just want to make sure everyone knows that's not true.
Yeah.
That's all I have to say.
I'm the guy that's leaving.
I'm pretty spiritual, I'm out.
God's calling me to Nashville.
Doesn't get more spiritual than
And
that.
after that, Hawaii. So I don't know what he's doing.
But I like it. Going the right direction.
One thing before we split the pray. So what about, obviously this is the smallest group we've had in so long.
Yeah.
What about with bringing the rest of the group into this conversation? Obviously, you guys wanted to have an intentional night. I think it's obviously a great idea, given the climate of change. But that tone has now been set here. But how do we carry that tone over with those who are not here?
One of the neat things about our group is that me and Hannah are not the central point of everybody in the group. Like you two have a much closer relationship than I have with Jessica. Like you guys, but like that's an easy example. But like I know that different people inside of our group have different relationships with other people inside of the group, and I would really ask for people to share that. So like you with Phil, and then also, obviously.
Tell your husband.
Can I find someone else?
Who wants Megan?
Try not to talk to him.
But
well-
but like with Jordan, you know what I'm saying? Like
I'll talk with the Clarks.
like to share that with the Clarks, and to that way. But even next week, from our standpoint, we're going to be talking about it because the month of May, we're going to be asking about it. We're going to have to be checking in on what's going on because we're going to be working towards that. And so, we'll probably send out an email, and people will kind of be like, what's going on?
Well, and I don't know if it worked, but I've also been recording this conversation on my phone.
Oh, yeah?
So I was going to email it out to our group.
Get the scent.
I got the sent conversation too.
Did you really?
Should have told us before.
I don't know. We'll see if it works.
What
But-
happens if you do the basement split and after the Roos leave, a leader hasn't come around?
Yeah, I had that thought too today.
It's like, and
We're all going to that.
Because actually, what'll happen
We'll
is,
Skype you in.
hopefully,
Good kind of news.
is that is in the middle of it. Actually, I'll be out of town for 3 weeks, so I'll kind of be there 3 weeks and then be gone 3 weeks and then back 1, and then that's kind of it for me.
So you need your leader.
So
Well, another thing too is, our desire again is as we are each individually seeking the Lord, and we feel like the Lord's going to make that clear that we don't know all the what ifs. But we're also, Caleb and I realize that we may have to get creative. Like, we can't say, okay, by June 1st, we're going to have a leader. Lord, please give us a leader by June 1st. That may not happen. So in that case, if there's 3 or 4 of you that say, well, we can rotate leadership, you know, for the next month as so and so prays about it, or there are other groups at Grace who only have 8 people showing up each week, so we could say, okay, well, maybe some of us have to split into groups that are already established if we don't have a leader in our group already. So I feel like, I don't know, we're just kind of trusting the Lord's going to figure it out for us, and we might have to get creative in the process. But you're not coming back to our group.
I know for Abby and I, and we've talked to a few people about this, we've met with and have begun looking at groups with parents. So we met with Ricky and Liz Miller for dinner a few weeks ago, and we're talking about, we got along great with them, and I work with some of the people, one of the guys in the group, and it's everybody that just had, it's a lot of people with kids ranging anywhere from like 7 until somebody just had a baby like 2 weeks ago. So we're looking at that. That's just kind of where Abby and I are right now. And I never told you that, but probably going to try it out within the next couple weeks. We've contacted and I've talked to a couple others, but it's the one that we want to try. So if you don't see us here in a couple weeks, it's on Thursday nights still, but yeah, that's just kind of where we're at if we're sharing our heart. Just because we feel like and I know her especially coming into this, really wants that connection with people that are in kind of that same stage of life. You're the first people that have come along that have had kids so far in the group.
We're lucky enough that our parents watched Dakota, so we don't have to worry about it. But yeah, it is nice to have that connection.
We're in the same boat, Corey.
Yeah.
So we'll probably be looking at other groups too, but we got a few ideas. We're just not sure what we're gonna do yet, so we'll have to wait and see.
We know a lot of people, so if you...
Actually, I was praying about it, and I was at the mall yesterday, and one of my friends from high school just happened to walk by. I'm like, you still go to Grace? And like, yeah, and we have our own real life group with kids. I'm like, okay, check it out.
Did he say with kids just like that?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Like that's a pro. You pray for the no-brainer moment.
Their names are the Riss Millers, but they don't actually lead it, they host it. They have some leaders who come to their house, so.
And that's, it's
The Adam?
Yeah.
You would say it just like that. Everything out of his
Or we could be creative in a sense. We could split with kids.
The next life group with parents.
We need some more people to join the parent group.
Not it.
If you volunteer,
I'm going with them.
and we could do it that way.
Come on, it's so fun. I'll leave you sit on your knife.
Sure.
So thanks a lot, guys. We do love you guys, and we've honestly just like grown so much through this, and this is awesome. This weekend,
It's a great problem.
This weekend we went through a real life group leader training, and once a quarter they do these things. And Pastor Nate was talking about the burden and the blessing, and oftentimes, more times than not, the burden and the blessing are so deeply connected. And it feels like it's like we're having a sad conversation. Like this sucks. Like I think I'm gonna lose some friends. And it's like that feels like a burden. Like I have a problem that we need to solve. But the blessing that is so deeply and intricately connected to the burden of saying, hey, we have a problem of growth, is the blessing of growth and the blessing of birth and the blessing of, the people that would decide to leave, the growth that would happen for them, and the people that would decide to stay and be part of that core group. That's like we're gonna make people feel welcome. We're gonna spread the gospel, and people walk that door. And I've told your story so many times. I just told today at breakfast to some guys I was with about what you did for the gender reveal party, because we found your cups. And we're like, hey, we need to give Jess her cups back. And we're like, that's awesome. Like how that's a way that you served somebody, at our house. And because you were part of the group, and you were ministering in a way that you knew how, by bringing the cups and bringing the mustaches and little lips for everybody. But everybody's involved in it, and I love that you clarified that one is not better than the other. They're both very intentional, and they're both being ministers where God has called them to be. But by making that decision, either to stay or to go, you're creating the opportunity to take ownership of the ministry that God's put in front of you. And so we love you guys, and I think there's a lot of blessing. I know there's going to be a lot of blessing that comes through this burden that we feel of trying to figure out what happens if we get to the end of the June or July time period, and I don't know. But thankfully that's God's problem. He made you guys come here. I didn't. So he'll figure out what to do with you. So
We need
all
a
right.
group hug.
All right. So I don't know. What do you say? What do you like? 10 till. We'll plan on 10 till, kind of wrapping it up. So I think everywhere upstairs is open.
No, Lord.
Bye.
How warm was Florida, Laura?
Say the opposite.
Can I take a picture of the questions? So I have,
Oh,
or
yeah.
the prayer questions?
You're so smart.
Well, I found my notebook, so.
I'm so sorry I wasn't able to make it last Thursday.
No, we
I missed you so much. And with helping with the decorations, I